Hello, everybody.
Hey there.
Welcome back.
This is Rita.
This is Amanda, and we are
I Don't Know Her,
the podcast where we talk about women that you probably didn't hear about in history class, but you should have.
And you will.
So,
we've got news.
We do. We have some good news. If you've been with us since the beginning, then you already know that our theme song is from a song called Shirley by L7. And we had our friend who's been helping us edit. Shout out to Isaac Jensen. He's our editing friend. I had Isaac put a piece of that song at the beginning for our intro music, and we really fell in love with it. And we were like, this is definitely what our music should be.
And it's definitely music that me and Amanda used to listen to when we were those
we were
rebellious little girls.
And so we were real nervous, though, that they would be like, you cannot use that. Mm-hmm. So I contacted Jennifer Finch from L7, who wrote the song, and she left us a very nice voice message about using the song and that she's so excited for us and is wishing us luck on our podcast.
Thank you so much. So happy that we can use that song. Amanda texted me that and I was like, huh?
I literally texted like everybody I thought would care about it. You know, like I have some friends who are still L7 fans like I am, and I was like, you are never gonna believe who left me a voice message. I totally lost my shit over it, but I was really nervous. I thought for sure that, they were gonna be like, who are you?
Yeah. And we're like, good things don't happen to us.
And I said in my message, I was like, listen, we're not with a studio. Although, if you want to pick us up, holler at your girl.
Please.
But we're not. We're independent women who are just doing a thing because we're really excited about the idea of learning about new women ourselves and then sharing it with other people. So I think that kind of helped it. We're like not some money-grubbing studio.
No. We're just trying to do a good thing.
So shout out to Jennifer Finch and all of the members of L7, and I'm so excited that we get to use Shirley as our song.
That is awesome. I'm so excited about that.
And shout out to my friend Liz Rogness, who offered to write a backup song in case.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, so maybe one day we'll debut that.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do like a live studio or like a live version in front of an audience sometime, and we'll have her do an intro.
Yes.
I've been listening to a whole bunch of podcasts over break because I have time.
Yeah.
And if you are a podcast listener, which I'm sure you are since you're listening to our random hole in the wall podcast.
Since you dug at the bottom of the sandbox and found us.
I have been listening to this one that my wife turned me on to called Happy Face. Have you heard of it?
No.
It's about this woman whose father was a serial killer.
Oh.
He was called the Happy Face Killer because he would write letters to, I think, the media, and he would put a smiley face on it.
Huh.
So he was nicknamed the Happy Face Killer. And so I start the first episode, and she's like, yeah, we were on our way to Spokane. I know, right? So I think you'd find it really interesting. It's really, really about her and like this journey that she went on, because she found out that he was a serial killer when she was like 15.
Oh my goodness.
In high school.
Like he was caught, or she just found?
He basically turned himself in.
Okay.
Is what it sounds like. I'm not very far into the podcast, but I just thought it was really interesting because the whole time they're like driving around Spokane.
Weird.
To the places that she used to be at, and like she found out she was pregnant in like the bathroom at Shadle High.
Oh my God.
They're like sitting outside Shadle High, and she's like, that's Shadle. And I'm like, I know that place. I don't know. I got weirdly excited about the fact that we know that there's been serial killer problems here, but he actually wasn't killing here. He was a long haul trucker.
I was just going to ask that. I was like, did he kill anybody here? Okay.
No, he was a long haul trucker, and he killed people in like California, all women. California, Arizona, blah, 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 all over the place. But they also lived in Sela,
Oh my gosh, I know where that is.
Yeah, right outside of Yakima.
Okay, I'm from Yakima.
Yep, which is where Rita's from. And they lived also in Wenatchee Valley. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. And at one point, they went on a fishing trip in Montana, and I was like, "You are covering all my bases."
Wow.
Yeah,
it was take a listen to that one.
Yeah, I would definitely say listen to it. It's really interesting. A woman-fronted podcast about a serial killer. If you're into that stuff,
yeah,
which I am.
She likes to not be able to sleep.
It's true. So anything you'd like to share today? Or are we moving on?
I think we're moving on. This person really interested me.
So we already decided that Rita's going to go first. We had our little chat about who would go first. Mm-hmm. Because mine is more, I would say, inspirational. So she said, we should end on that. And now I'm a little nervous about what hers is going to be about.
It's not terrible. Nobody's like drawn and quartered at the end of this one.
It's not like mine, the last one, where I had to have like 17 trigger warnings because every other thing happened to her was terrible.
Oh, God. Yeah.
It's not like that, or
it's not like that. No.
I don't think we should do 2 of those in a row.
No. Okay, so my lady of the day, her name is Ada Coleman.
I think I know that person.
What?
I definitely know the name. Ada Coleman.
Ada Coleman.
But I'm not like... So this is the thing about I don't know her. Is that sometimes you know that person, but you don't know
her
enough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think that our podcast, it's like some people are probably like, well, I know who that is. I know who Wilma Rudolph is. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but did you know the whole story? Probably not.
Yeah.
So you should still tune in. So I think I know who Ada Coleman is.
Ada is. So she's the first famous professional bartender and mixologist.
No, I don't. I had somebody completely different in mind from the Old West.
Okay. Might be it's kind of a common-ish name.
It is.
Maybe. So because I'm a bartender in both of my jobs, and there was this woman that came into the bar that I work at, and she ordered a cocktail. I made her the cocktail. She came up to pay for it, and she burst into tears. And I was like...
She started crying?
Yeah, she was just full on crying. And I was like, are you all right? And she's just, I really need this. It's been a really hard day. And she just put her money down and grabbed the drink and sat down and continued to cry. And so
dear.
I'm like watching her, and I'm like, this isn't okay. So she came up for another one, and so I said, ma'am, I don't know what's going on, but can I hug you? And she was like, please. And so I hugged her, and I said, I don't know what's going on, but it'll be all right. I don't know that for a fact, but it'll be all right for right now. I was like, can I make you another drink? And yes. And she said, thank you. That made me feel so much better. I didn't know what happened. She left. I don't know what the hell happened, but it's like, as a bartender, you see a lot of people at their high points, but you see a lot of people at their low points.
Yeah, people who are celebrating something really incredible, and people who are there to be like, fuck my life.
Yeah, fuck the world. I need to get drunk.
My mother died. My marriage is falling apart. Yeah.
And I've always been, so I went to bed and I was thinking like, man, you carry people with that, like carry people like that with you later on, and just wondering like what the gist was, or if she was okay, or like did somebody hurt her or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I wonder if like men feel the same way, like male bartenders compared to female bartenders. And then I was like, oh, I wonder who the first like female like bartender, like famous bartender or whatever, bar owner or brewery owner. It just put the idea in my head. So that's why I went looking. And this is the person that stuck out to me. So Ada Coleman was born in England in 1875.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
See, I was thinking we were going to go real contemporary.
No.
Okay, 1875?
Yes.
Okay.
So her actual date of birth, unknown. The month that she was born, unknown. But the year, 1875. Ada was the daughter of a steward. The steward of Rupert d'Oyly Carte. C-A-R-T-E. Carte?
Yeah, probably
Yeah.
cart.
Doily Cart. Well, it's a D, but it's an Irish thing. It's a D with a comma, O-Y-L-Y. Doily?
O-L-O-Y?
O-Y-L-Y.
O-Y-L-Y. Yeah, I think that's doily.
Doily.
Wow, Doily Cart. That's quite the name.
Rupert.
I feel like we have like a running gag where we make fun of everybody's names. I think that's a really
There's
shitty
probably
thing.
a Rupert out there that's like, Mo.
Yeah.
So it doesn't say what her father's name was. It just says the name Rupert is the man that her father was steward for, and he owned a golf club. So I looked up a little bit of what a steward's duties were, and it was basically like a supervisor kept the management in the order of the club. So basically what we would call a GM, like a general manager. Mm-hmm. Rupert's golf club was one of many pieces of real estate that he had. So this guy was rich as fuck. He owned the Savoy Hotel. He owned Claridge, the Berkeley Hotel, the Simpsons in the Strand, and the Grand Hotel in Rome. So
wow.
This guy was money. And they were all rated 5-star hotels. They were really
the
ritzy.
Savoy is like famous.
Yes. So Ada's father died when she was 24 years old. And Rupert wanted to make sure that she could make ends meet, so he hired her to work in one of his hotels. He offered her a job at the Claridge to work in the flower shop. Then he liked her so much, he promoted her to work in the hotel bar in 1899. And at 24, she barely missed the cap for, like, there's a cutoff back then of, like, how old you could be to be working as a bar as a woman. And it was 25. And if you were 25 and older, need not apply.
Really?
Yeah, like, go away. You're too old.
That's bizarre. I would think it would be the other way around.
Yeah. I don't know.
Okay.
So at the time that Ada entered the bar scene, she was going against not only a male-dominated work environment, but male-dominated client base. And at the time, less than half the bartenders in London were women. So there were women bartenders, but Ada's story is how she becomes a head bartender. Most of them were daughters of tradesmen, mechanics, young women from, in quotations, better-born classes that were like fallen upon and needed to make ends meet. So then they just became bartenders.
Yeah, I can see that.
I guess it's like, well, it's a hard but easy job. So long hours, many women saw the job as less monotonous as other professions. So like sewing or trades like that. Campaigns, though, began at that time to eliminate the barmaid as a profession for women, because the perceptions of the job was that it was bad for them, bad for society, and bad for them physically and morally. So obviously, dear God, she works in a saloon or a bar.
Well, that happened in the United States as well. Mm-hmm. During the early suffrage movement to get women the right to vote, those women were also proponents of prohibition. Because they believed it went hand in hand.
Yeah.
That women suffered because alcohol existed.
Really?
Yeah. And they saw it as a matter of equality. That if no one was allowed to drink, then women would be treated better.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So at Claridge's, there was a wine merchant named Fisher, and he really took a shine to Ada. So he decided to teach her how to properly compound drinks and shake a shaker. And she recalled that the first drink she ever made was a Manhattan, which is one of my favorites.
See, I find the Manhattan to be a little too
earthy,
sweet for me. Like, because it's got cherry in it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you don't like cherry?
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of cherry. Although I love an old fashioned. So I love a good cherry in an old fashioned. Mm-hmm. We're not talking maraschino cherries here. Step up your game.
Yeah, we're talking real.
Step up your cocktail game if you ever see a maraschino cherry.
That belongs on a Sunday, not on a cocktail.
Yes. Which means you grow out of it when you're like 13. Mm-hmm. So, but that's the only time I like a cherry. I'm just not a cherry person.
Yeah, she isn't. I know. Actually, I like that. I know that about you. I'm like, oh, she doesn't like cherries. So when she was behind the bar, she proved herself something of a drink crafting prodigy, is what they called her. She also had a personality that customers adored. The management saw that she was doing something that others weren't doing, which was really connecting with the customers. And it transferred her to another one of Doily Cart's high-profile properties, which was the Savoy. Yeah.
Wow.
She was promoted there, and she was named the head bartender in 1903.
That seems like that would be very difficult to do as a woman.
Yeah.
There were, I mean, like I said, there were so many perceptions.
Mm-hmm.
The most prevalent perception that I know existed at the time was that women who worked in bars were
Loose.
yes,
Or
loose, as we
low class.
yeah, whatever all of those stereotypes were about being sexually promiscuous or low class, or it was a job for, I don't know, harlots.
Mm-hmm.
I love that word.
So Ada is said to be the first and only female head bartender at the Savoy, but there was another woman that was working there, and I wanted to make sure to include this woman. Her name was Ruth Burgess. So Ruth was working there in 1902, but she was not a head bartender.
Okay.
So Ruth was called, from what I found, she was called Miss B, or she was called Kitty, which is super cute. Could you imagine ordering a drink from someone named Kitty? Hey, Kitty. So newspaper accounts say that they were equally popular with customers, but it was Ada that had the spotlight with newspapers, and her accounts were documented more. So I'm like, I don't know what was with Ruth. Like,
maybe it
she
was
just polishing glasses, or
yeah, maybe she was a bar back.
yeah. There was like a little piece of gossip that said that the two women worked separately for 20 years because they didn't want to speak to each other. Because, yeah, I know, like a catty, pointless.
Do you think that's true?
I don't think you can. I could not work with somebody for fucking 20 years and not speak to them.
No.
Because it's just impossible.
Also, isn't that the way we always pit women against each other?
It's against each other.
Ugh, I hate it.
Yeah. So it said that Ada was refusing to give Ruth her recipes on her most popular drinks. So it was like a drink bottle, whatever. Other accounts say, though, that the duo flourished being together as two females behind the bar, which I highly believe. It was Kitty and Coley.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I believe that story a little bit more. So Ada made cocktails for some of the wealthiest and famous people in England at the time. People like Mark Twain, the Prince of Wales, Prince Wilhelm of Sweden, an American millionaire named Diamond Jim Brady, Marlene Dietrich, and Charlie Chaplin.
Marlene Dietrich?
Yes. Marlene, is it Marlena or Marlene?
Marlene Dietrich.
Yes.
Who was very openly bisexual.
Ooh. Could you imagine sitting there getting a drink from Kitty?
I mean, Marlene Dietrich was so sexy. I would do anything for her.
She would.
Like, I will make you whatever you want.
Yep. And Charlie Chaplin, which I thought was cool. Ada found, she called it her stage and her spotlight was behind the bar. She was very charismatic, entertaining. She made an impression on customers, had them always coming back, and she received gifts from all over the world. She was even left a lump sum from Lucas Doyley-Cart, who was Rupert's father, in his will. Cocktail historian Ted High said that, to quote, "Not only was Coley a woman in the world of male bartenders, it was she who made the bar famous." She was also a lover of musicals, and she would often host parties at her own personal home for theater people and, in quotations, mixed crowds.
I would bet that was like lower class and upper class.
Mm-hmm. Like, hey, everybody, come to my house and I'll shake you a drink and let's party.
I would imagine that being in the industry, she would have known people who were not the Marlene Dietrichs of the world.
Yes.
And she would know the Marlene Dietrichs of the world.
So it said it was often full of music, dancing, drinking, and laughter. So it sounds like an awesome party.
Yeah, I would love to be there.
Yeah. Ada is noted to have created the famous classic cocktail, which I've heard of this one. I learned this one from one of my books, The Hanky Panky.
Yeah.
Yeah, she created that drink.
I've never had it. What's in it?
So it is, I wrote the recipe down, so if anybody wants to make a Hanky Panky, it's equal parts London dry gin and sweet vermouth. So it has a half and a half, but I feel like you could use an ounce and an ounce if you wanted a bigger drink.
Yeah, that would be quite the drink.
Oh, that's the alcoholic talking. It's 2 dashes of Fernet Branca, which Fernet is everywhere now.
Yeah.
And when she used it, people didn't know what it was.
Doesn't it have like a licorice flavor to it?
It's very, for me, it's like a little medicinal tasting.
Yeah. Like it's like almost syrupy, like cough syrupy.
Yes. And right now, Fernet is definitely, I would say, the industry servers drink.
Yeah.
Like when I was still drinking, everyone would be, let's do shots of Fernet. Or if you came in and said you were a bartender, the bartender would just give you a free shot of Fernet. And I was always like, I don't like this, but I'll drink it because I don't want to be
You're not
rude.
on trend, Rita.
I guess not. Fernet
Get
is not
on
my
trend.
favorite. People seem to love it. It's just not my jam.
Yeah.
But there was Charles Hawtrey was a comedian and actor that was one of Ada's most colorful regulars, and he asked for a new drink. And so this is a quote from Ada. It says, "The late Charles Hawtrey was one of the biggest, best judges of cocktails that I knew. Some years ago when he was overworking, he used to come into the bar and say, 'Coley, I am tired. Give me something with a bit of punch to it.' It was for him that I spent hours experimenting until I invented a new cocktail. The next time he came in, I told him I had the new drink for him. He sipped it, and draining the glass, he said, 'By Jove, that is a real hanky-panky.' And I laughed, and hanky-panky has been called ever since."
That's awesome.
And so the name hanky-panky in England meant, at the time, magic or witchcraft, which is what I always thought hanky-panky was like.
Sexy times.
Yeah, like
that's what I
slap and
think of
tickle.
it.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's the difference between the American and English versions of the
I guess. So
of
yeah,
the
it
word.
means magic or witchcraft. And it is still served at the Savoy today. Ada was at the Savoy for 23 years.
Wow.
And her heyday would end, though, with American Prohibition. So
That makes sense. Yeah.
I know. So this American bartender named Harry Craddock, this piece of shit, I'm sorry.
What's his name?
Harry Craddock.
I think I've heard of him.
So Harry Craddock is very, very famous. More
Yeah.
famous than Ada. So he comes to London looking for work because Prohibition is
Put him out
shutting
of work,
everything
yeah.
down. And he's shit out of luck. So him and other bartenders from the U.S. are coming to London and coming to all over different places trying to find bartending work. He proclaims himself that he shook the last legal drink in the States before he hopped a ship and came to England. Yeah.
He's creating his own legend.
Oh, yeah. So he's
he's got game, obviously.
Yeah, he's getting these people enamored with him. He shows up at the Savoy and he brings this American belief that women should not be behind bars. And new American clientele is coming in because they can no longer drink in the States. So they're coming overseas, on vacation. And this is an elite place too. So this is people with money who can travel.
Yeah, this is like the place.
The place. So American clientele is coming, looking for new drinkeries. Rupert starts looking to please the new American clientele. And he listens to Craddock. And he decides to let Katie go. And he transfers.
Wait, Coley or?
He lets Kitty
Okay.
go. And he transfers Coley, which is Ada, to the flower shop. Back to the flower shop.
Wait, back to the flower shop? When was she
Yeah.
ever at a fucking flower shop?
She started in the flower shop at his first hotel, the first job that she had. So the hotel went through renovations, like slight renovations for the bar and stuff, and closed it down and then opened it back up, like a little sharper, a little nicer. And Ada's out and Harry's in. Yeah. He's just got this fucking bravado. He writes a book, which is probably why you've heard of him, the Savoy Cocktail
Yes.
book. He is the one that wrote that. So he's the one that like documents all of these famous classic cocktails that was part of the resurgence. I know. What would you say? Like the past 10 years, cocktails have been getting more and more like that revolution came back.
Craft
The
cocktails
cocktail
and
came back.
pre-prohibition era cocktails became like really huge in the last 5 years.
Yes. So he's the one that wrote that book. Kitty goes to the flower shop, but they use the story that says that she retired. So there's kind of mixed feelings of did she get pushed out, which I think she did. Because this new guy comes in and he's like, "Oh, hey, women don't belong here, and also I'm American. Look how fancy I am. I can appeal to your American clientele." Blardy, blardy, blar. So he claims to have invented 240 cocktails while he was at the Savoy, and that's what's in the Savoy cocktail book. He gives one cocktail, the Hanky Panky, credit to Ada. So out of
all the 200,
all
yeah.
those, Ada has one. So it's like, do you think some of those were Ada's?
Yeah, absolutely I do.
that he walked in and she had already
She was
set up.
bartending there for 23 years, right?
Yeah, and she only had one cocktail.
Yeah, right.
Bullshit.
I mean, I've made up my own cocktail, and I've never been a professional bartender.
Yes.
But I understand how flavors work, and I wanted to create my own cocktail, and I did, and it's fucking delicious.
Yeah. I just feel that this guy, and too, he would make like a big deal about his cocktails. Like he did a challenge to people. Like he would give them 50 pounds if anybody could genuinely prove or feel that his cocktail didn't go well with their lunch. Like he would throw out challenges like that. He was
a showman.
He was. He created this cocktail called the White Lady, which is similar to like a white linen, like a gin based. Yeah. And the shaker that he created it in, he entombed it in the bar wall. He would brick up shakers and like vials of cocktails to like encapsulate them. Yeah, I know.
He really thought highly of himself. That's obvious.
And so that's one thing that struck me about her was that I'm pretty sure that she was part of this base of this revolution that has happened here in the States for like the past 10 years of the craft cocktail coming back. But everybody looks at that book with that guy's name on it. Yeah. And she's nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Treachery.
Yeah.
That's what happens when the victors write the history books.
Exactly. So Ada, in her 50s, she worked at the flower shop for a bit, and then she went and worked at a coat room at another hotel for a little while. She quietly retired. Her life after that, I could not find a drop. So if anybody out there has any more history of what happened to Ada, I don't know.
She probably went in, she just became a regular person.
Yeah. She died at the age of 91 in 1966. And actually, Harry died. They died within 3 years of each other, and he didn't die very well either. He has a legacy, and so does she, but they both kind of just went poof and disappeared, yeah. So in 2016, Liquor.com listed her as one of the 9 most important bartenders of all time. And bartenders at the Savoy still speak of her as an iconic legend. And the Hanky Panky is now served worldwide. In 2015, it was listed by Drinks International as one of the top 50 best-selling cocktails in the world. That's
Very
pretty
cool.
Amazing, yeah. At the Savoy, it is served in 2 versions, which is the original Tocolis, and then an upgraded version, which is aged in oak barrels and includes several different kinds of vermouth and gin. So you can do like variations of it.
Very cool.
Which I thought would be kind of cool to like go through.
Yeah, so it's equal parts gin, vermouth, and then Fernet.
Fernet.
How much Fernet?
It said dashes of Fernet.
Okay.
And then also, I forgot to say, it's shaken. It's served up, straight up. And it's got expressed orange peel on it.
Ooh,
so you do.
I want that.
I know, it sounds
Maybe
really
I'll make
nice.
one for myself
Go
tonight.
ahead,
I've
try
got
it.
all of those things.
I was thinking of taking it to work and making it at work because we do some really nice cocktails at work. And I thought, like, well, let's do a hanky panky. That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah.
And I love express orange peel. We've got a cocktail that has that on there, and it smells so wonderful.
It smells so good. Hey, where'd you get your information from? I forgot to ask you.
Yes, I got my information from travelbytheglass.com, famous female bartenders, The Difford's Guide. I went to Thrillist and found women who changed bar industry, female bartenders, Wikipedia, of course. And then I went to drinksit.com/news/full story. And then there's a website called Ladies United for the Preservation of Endangered Cocktail. Yeah.
You ladies, you get that. It's like they're treating it like an endangered species. Well, that's funny.
So that's called the LUPEC Boston.com. And then I went to the Daily Beast, and it was the what ended the career of the world's first celebrity female bartender.
Cool.
Yep. I just really did enjoy that story because bartenders are fascinating, especially the good ones.
Yeah.
The ones that keep you coming back. And I had just read an article on that. Me and Amanda are both part of a beer sharing page, and it's like proven good customer service, a good bartender will help with your sales and boost your sales. And,
Yep.
you got a shitty one. And I was always told, one bad experience, one person tells 20. And that's really detrimental for your business. And not to say that I'm perfect. There's been a lot of people I've fucking pissed off. But for the most part, it's like 80-20. I'm pretty good at customer service. So who do you have today?
Okay, are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
So Abby's been like obsessed with trying to send me people to do.
Oh.
And I kind of resist that. I don't know why. I think it's because...
I know why.
Well, I think it's because I also want it to be a surprise for her.
Oh, okay.
So I'm like, oh, I don't want
Don't ruin it.
Yeah, you already know about that person. But she's been sending me... And I already knew about it. But have you heard of the Overlooked on the New York Times?
No.
So starting in, I think it was early 2018, they started this series called Overlooked.
Okay.
And it's obituaries for women who were never featured in the New York Times but should have been.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so women who've really done incredible things and their lives were not remembered in the obituaries like they should have been. So there are some really great people on there. I highly recommend checking it out.
Yeah.
And so she sent me this person. So if you've already been reading the New York Times Overlooked series, you've probably heard of her, but I have more information than the New York Times had.
Okay.
I am talking about Noor Inayat. That's what it is. Noor Inayat Khan.
I don't know her.
Indian princess and British spy.
What? I want that on a business card.
Okay, so Noor Inayat Khan was born on January 1st, 1914 in Moscow, Russia.
Ooh.
Her father, Inayat Khan, came from a noble Muslim family and was a descendant of an 18th century ruler, and this meant that Noor was a princess. She was royalty. Inayat was a musician who was in Moscow as part of a music troupe called the Royal Musicians of Hindustan. So her father was very talented and very prestigious. Her mother was originally from America, so her mother is an American, and her birth name was Ora Ray Baker. After she met and married Noor's father, she converted to Sufism.
What's Sufism?
It's a mystical form of Islam.
Okay.
So it's, I think of it kind of like how Kabbalah of Judaism. This is like that sort of mysticism of Islam.
Okay.
And so her mother, Ora Ray Baker, changed her name to Amina Sharadi Begum. I don't know. I'm not sure how to say that one. Noor had 3 siblings, 2 brothers and a sister, and she was the oldest. Just before the outbreak of World War I, her family moved from Russia to Paris and then to London, where her siblings were all born. So she was born in Russia, everybody else was born in London.
Okay.
The family returned to Paris in 1920 and settled in Suresnes. In 1927, while on a pilgrimage in India, Noor's father died. And her mother was completely grief-stricken. And she was unable to take care of the children.
She just kind of gave up on life.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. So at age 13, Noor took over much of the care of the children and the household. She was described as being quiet, shy, and dreamy.
Sounds romantic.
She does. I imagine her just like watching the stars at night and thinking of a life and a future.
Yeah.
She was a very terrific writer, like a writing prodigy at a young age. And she wrote short stories and poetry. And just like her father, she was also a gifted musician. She played the harp and the piano.
Ooh.
When I say she was gifted, she was gifted. So she studied child psychology at the Sorbonne and also attended the Paris Conservatory for Music.
Wow.
All while maintaining the household.
Jesus.
Yeah, so she was real impressive.
So it's basically like she's working and in college with a family.
Exactly. As like a single mom.
Yeah, exactly.
Noor made a name for herself as a writer when she published 20 Jataka tales in 1939. So she was like 25 when she published that book, and it became a bestseller.
That's so young to be published.
It is very young.
Yeah.
And also to think about like how much she had already done. I mean, she studied child psychology at Sorbonne and went to the Paris Music Conservatory. Incredible. So when World War II broke out, France became flooded with Nazis.
Ugh.
And so the family fled to England because it was not safe.
Yeah.
Even though their faith, so the Sufism was a very pacifist religion, so they did not believe in fighting and war and things like that. They understood that the Nazis were really, really fucking bad people. And they wanted to help defeat the Nazis. So Noor and her brother, Vilayat, decided they wanted to help defeat the Nazis, whom they saw as pure evil. Obviously. They knew that they didn't want to enlist in any part of the British armed forces that would require them to kill or injure people or even to carry a gun. So, because this was against their religion and their faith. So this meant that the jobs they were eventually assigned to were in fact the most dangerous.
Oh, jeez. Did it have to do with like bombs or something?
Yeah, he had to disable landmines.
I knew it.
And she went on to become a British spy sent directly into Nazi-occupied France.
Jeez.
So in 1940, Noor joined the Women's Auxiliary Air Force, where she trained as a wireless operator. Because she was fluent in English and French, Noor was recruited to join the Special Operations Executive, which was a secret British organization set up to help the resistance from behind enemy lines and coordinate espionage and Nazi sabotage. This is the organization that would later become MI6.
Whoa.
She received fairly limited training because the British needed to send people immediately. They didn't have enough time to really properly train her. And one supervisor wrote that she was, quote, not overburdened by brains, and that she had an
What does that mean?
unstable and temperamental personality.
What?
It is the shadiest way of saying I think she's dumb. She's not overburdened with brains.
I'm gonna use that now, like for somebody who is like dumb as a brick. I'm like,
Yeah. Well, they're not overburdened by brains. I'll tell you that. And they said that she had an unstable and temperamental personality. But another supervisor dismissed these ideas as nonsense and also said, we don't want them overburdened by brains.
Oh my God. That is fucking terrible.
We want them dumb because if they understand what they're doing, they won't do it. However, the bigger issue was that she was both physically and mentally lacking the fortitude for the job.
Okay.
She was a nervous person. She was clumsy.
Oh no. Sounds like me.
She was real careless.
Oh,
she would often leave codes lying around for anybody to see. In a practice mission, like, so they practice stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, so they did this like practice mission, and these people played the part of the Gestapo. In a practice mission where she was supposed to avoid the Gestapo, she was found immediately and gave away confidential material by accident.
Oh, jeez. Here you go.
Yeah. So,
not the best.
they had to be really hurting for people to be like, know what, you're our best opportunity.
It's kind of like Pink Panther.
And also because of her background in Sufism, this mystical Islamic religion, she was adamantly opposed to lying.
Oh.
But that was her job as a spy.
Yeah.
Like, you have to lie.
You have to. You are playing a part.
But she overcame a lot of that and became very excellent at her job. Like, her actual job, like, which was doing these wireless messages, she was phenomenal at that. And she spoke 2 languages. Though her training was cut short, they sent her to France in 1943 under the name of Jean-Marie René, where she posed as a children's nurse.
Okay.
Madeline became her code name. So she has 3 names. Her real name is Noor. And then
her cover name
is Jean-Marie René. And then her code name is Madeline.
Okay.
I know that's a lot to keep in, but I promise it'll be easier when we get to it. And Noor Khan became the first woman radio operator to be sent into Nazi-occupied France.
Wow.
The job of the operator, so what her job was to maintain a link between the circuit in the field and London.
Okay.
So she had to send and receive messages about planned sabotage operations or about where arms were needed to help resistance fighters. Mm-hmm. Without these communications, it was impossible for any strategy to be coordinated for resisting the Nazis. But the operators were highly vulnerable to detection, which was improving as the war progressed. So because they had to physically connect to lines, and those messages could be intercepted very easily. And then they would hunt you down and figure out where you were sending messages from. Hiding themselves as best as they could, the aerials were strung up in attics or disguised as washing lines, like laundry lines.
Ooh, that's clever.
And they would tap out Morse code on the keys of transmitters, and they would often have to wait for hours for a reply while alone, waiting for a signal saying that the messages were received.
Jeez.
If they stayed on the air, transmitting for more than 20 minutes, their signals were likely to be picked up by the enemy, and detection vans would trace the source of these suspect signals. When the operator moved location, the bulky transmitter, that they had to carry it.
Oh, jeez.
And sometimes they would conceal it in like a suitcase or in a bundle of firewood. If they were stopped and searched, the operator would have no cover story to explain the transmitter. Mm-hmm. And in 1943, an operator's life expectancy, guess how long?
A week?
6 weeks.
Oh, jeez. That's a very, very short amount of time.
Yeah, so 6 weeks is as long as they were expected to live.
How would you explain that transmitter? Be like, I found it?
Exactly. There was no way to say why you had this thing.
Yeah.
So within a week of her arrival in Paris, the operation had been found by Nazis, and a giant sweep by the Gestapo resulted in the arrest of all of the other British agents in the operation. Noor managed to escape.
Oh, wow.
The Brits offered to get her out of Paris, but she refused and continued on with the mission. Yeah, so that whole stuff about when she was in training and how she was like this fumbling idiot, I'm like, obviously she wasn't.
Yeah. So
she is the only person working in Paris at this point for the Brits. Mm-hmm. Noor took on the work of 6 operators and was constantly on the move. She knocked on the doors of old friends, because remember, she used to live in Paris?
Yeah.
So she would knock on the doors of old friends, set up shop in their houses, and transmit and receive messages.
That's risky.
Yes, it is. And then she'd pack up her equipment in a bulky, heavy suitcase and continued on. She constantly changed her looks, even dyeing her black hair blonde.
Whoa.
Her work was incredibly important, and they proved that she helped save the lives of dozens of London airmen, and she coordinated the import and export of supplies that helped defeat the Nazis.
Wow.
After 4 months, remember the life expectancy was 6 weeks?
6 weeks, yeah.
After 4 months of this dangerous work, Noor was ready to go home. It was getting too dangerous. But just before she was supposed to go back to England, she was betrayed by a person in her operation, a double agent.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So around October 13th of 1943, she was arrested by the Gestapo and held at the headquarters. She escaped twice, but never made it very far. And I mean, her escape attempts were like crazy. At one point, and the best one was when she was like pretty much out. She was on the roof, scrambling across the roof. And then at that exact moment is when English planes were flying overhead. No. And so she was discovered. But if they hadn't been doing an air attack at that time, she would have not been found. She would have been able to escape. So she had escaped twice, but she was found each time. Even while being beaten, she refused to give up any information about the operation. However, they found her notebooks, which she had written stuff like pretty much everything in.
Okay.
And that was not what she was supposed to do.
She was not supposed to do that?
No.
Oh, crap.
So they found her notebooks and they began to imitate her on the wire.
Oh, no.
So they knew her code name. They knew like how she typed. So after her second escape attempt, they labeled her extremely dangerous, and she was shackled and kept in solitary confinement.
Jeez.
But Noor knew that she would likely not be able to escape again or live through what was happening to her. So she managed to communicate with other prisoners in the cells that they were in by scratching messages into the bottom of her mess cup.
Whoa.
One such communication was the name Nora Baker. So her name was Noor, right?
Yeah.
But everybody called her Nora. Do you remember where Baker came from?
No.
That was her mom's name.
Oh.
Her mom's birth name.
Okay.
Because she was American.
Yeah.
So she wrote the name Nora Baker because they still wouldn't be able to trace who she was.
Yeah.
And she also wrote the address of her mother's home in London so that after all was said and done, they would know what happened to her. Mm-hmm. Here's where this goes a little sad.
Okay.
Nora was sent to Dachau concentration camp.
No.
There she was tortured for days before eventually being executed. She and 3 other of the Special Operations executive women were lined up and shot in the back of the head.
Jeez.
Her last word is reported to have been liberté.
Oh, wow.
She was 30 years old.
Oh my gosh, so young.
So young. In 1949, she was posthumously awarded the George Cross by Britain and the Croix de Guerre with the Gold Star by France, which are both some of the highest honors you can get in the armed forces in those countries.
Wow.
In 2014, they commemorated her on a stamp in England, and there is a bronze bust of her that stands near her home in London. And in 2018, she was suggested to be the new face of the 50-pound note in England, but she lost out to a male scientist.
Okay. That sucks.
I know, I wasn't real happy about that.
No.
Her life story has been recalled in an excellent biography by a woman named Shrabani Basu called Spy Princess, The Life of Noor Inayat Khan, and in a PBS documentary called Enemy of the Reich, the Noor Inayat Khan story. And I used, obviously, the overlooked obituary in the New York Times and a Wikipedia article on her, but I also used the BBC and this lovely little site that I've gone to a couple times now called Rejected Princesses.
Oh.
Which I really enjoy. And I just was really inspired by her story. And I liked that she kind of had this, like, I don't know, this sort of clumsy girl next door image.
Yeah, very real, very human, and too, probably a girl that we can identify with, because me and Amanda have no grace.
None. I will fall up the stairs like a classic.
I always tell people I trip on flat ground, walk on a straight line sober. Like,
true story. Me too. I have like some kind of depth perception problem, so I run into the corners of everything all the time.
Oh, jeez.
With my hips and my knees and my ankles. Like, if there is a corner in existence, I will run into it.
I believe I'm daintier than I really am, so I feel like I can maneuver around a table and I jam the side of my hip and I'm like, fuck! And it's like a table of 5 that are a family that I just swore in front of. And I'm like, oh, sorry.
I thought it was like, we actually had an episode that we did that's been lost. So you guys will never hear it. It was really great. We loved it so much.
It was so good.
And I talked about Sophie Scholl, who was a 22-year-old German woman who helped found a resistance movement called the White Rose Movement in Germany and had distributed anti-Nazi leaflets and had been beheaded by the Gestapo for her
It was an
crimes.
amazing story.
Yeah, such an inspirational story. And I think it's so important to talk about the women who were doing such incredible things during World War II, because I can name dozens of movies that are about the men in World War II. Mm-hmm. And I think it's also important to look at this woman who was an Indian princess. Like, she had all the means in the world, did not have to get herself involved in this, mm-hmm. but she felt morally obligated to stop the evil that was happening. She was a Muslim woman who helped stop the Nazis from killing all the Jews. Like, I mean, that's a really powerful story.
Yeah, incredible.
Like, she was helping resistance fighters who were Jews in and around France. So I think
never heard of her.
Yeah, and I think it was just an incredible story, and she was so brave and young and beautiful. Yeah.
I did find some photos of Ada, and she was quite pretty. She was cute. And there's one of her, like, when she's like 50-something years old behind the bar, like with a shaker, and she's just smiling. She looks like somebody's mom.
Did she have kids?
It did not say she had any children. It didn't even mention actually a husband at all.
Yeah, I didn't find any information about Noor having any kind of family beyond her, like, mm-hmm. her actual, like, family she was born in. So I did see there was, like, her siblings went on to become really important people, too.
Oh, that's wonderful, because she had a part in that. She raised them, yeah.
Yeah, because she helped raise them. And her brother, Vilayat, who was also helped in World War II, he was the one who was disabling landmines. Mm-hmm. Fucking hell. What a dangerous damn job.
Yep.
There was an interview I saw with him online, and he has his own Wikipedia page.
Mm.
So, yeah, like he did some cool stuff. Yeah. So I think the Khan family in general, they seem like really cool people that just were brave. Like, it was in their bones to be brave. Hmm. And I can't imagine being like, I need to stand up to the Nazis, but don't give me a gun. I mean, that's crazy. That was real. I mean, I always admire people who have these kinds of beliefs. You know, what the other person we talked about on the last episode was Jeanette Rankin.
Oh, yes.
Who was the first woman senator who happened to be from Montana, and she's the only person who ever voted against World War II.
World War I and World War II.
Yes.
And the only person in history to vote no on both.
Exactly. So so we talked about how it was brave of her to be a pacifist, to be anti-war, and to really stand up for that mm-hmm. for the whole of her life. She became an anti-Vietnam War activist, right? Mm-hmm. And she was a lesbian. All things that I did not know. I was so pissed that that episode got lost.
Maybe we can include our information just written down. So if anybody out there is curious, we can just at least have what we had, our information that we had gathered.
But we actually got to tie him into this one at least.
Yeah.
But Jeanette was one of those people that's like Noor. Like, she just said, that's not who I am. I don't believe in that. Mm-hmm. I will never believe in that. I will never vote for that. And stood up for it no matter what. And so in her case, like, she became this spy who had no protection, didn't shoot a gun, never would have shot a gun. Mm-hmm. I thought that was really brave.
Very brave.
It's easy to be brave when you have a weapon.
True.
It's much harder to be
brave.
Have
something to hide behind, or not hide behind, but stand behind.
Yeah, it's much harder to be brave when it's just you. And she was, like I said, like, in the nighttime, constantly traveling, constantly changing her looks, constantly going to new places so she couldn't be found.
It's cool that she was good at just what she did. Whatever mm-hmm. effort she put towards, she did a good job. I wonder do you think the fumbly bumbly was just a little bit of her figuring it out,
I think so, and I also think she was a very nervous person.
Okay. I'd be nervous too.
Because it talked about when she was little, she was quiet and shy mm-hmm. and kind of introspective.
Okay.
So I think she just wasn't the kind of person who would normally do something like this. But mm-hmm. this wasn't a normal circumstance. When the Nazis were occupying and taking over so much of Europe, that was not a normal circumstance. Mm-hmm. And So she was determined to do something about it, and that's the thing that she could do.
Mm-hmm.
She spoke 2 languages. She could type like a motherfucker. And actually, what did they call her? I forgot to write it in my notes, but they had a nickname for how she wrote. Like, it was like something like, I can't even remember, something fist. And it was like, had something to do with like the way she typed.
Interesting.
Was like real heavy. And that's the thing that they imitated.
Oh.
And actually, there was somebody on the receiving end in London who was like, I don't think this is her. And they were like, nonsense, you have no idea what you're talking about. And it turned out that obviously...
Well, yeah, it wasn't her.
Yeah, it wasn't her.
Yeah.
And they, like, the Nazis were able to get a whole bunch of messages that were supposed to be sent to Madeline, her code name.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was a really fascinating story, and I think that it could be easily made into a movie.
Oh, absolutely.
So, Reese Witherspoon, I know you got your own company out there. I know you're listening to this because obviously you've got your finger on the pulse.
Exactly. She's on it.
And you are going to make that movie.
Just give us a call.
Of Noor Inayat
Invite
Khan.
us.
Yeah, and we'll be consultants on the film. Well, I think we covered some really awesome ladies today, and I'm excited for what we bring next time.
Yeah, thanks for listening, guys.
Thanks for keeping up with us. I hope you stay on listening, and also make sure you go to iTunes and give us 5 stars, recommend us to your friends.
Tell people.
Tell people about it.